Okay, it's time for me to expose what Tripadvisor and Viator did to me and another fishing guide service. Buckle up, I don't think another company can fail as bad as they did. Now, while searching for ways to promote my fishing guide service, I found Tripadvisor. And on Tripadvisor, I found Scenic City Fishing Charters. This is, Joe with Chat Cats Fishing. Richard created this, and their little group of guides have over 200 reviews with a 5.0 rating here on TripAdvisor. They got awards and everything else. Now, I'm going to say this before I continue on with the actual story. I recommend them as a group. If you are down in Chattanooga and you want or need a fishing guide, check them out. Richard's guys are great. They're a good service. And part of this story does involve Scenic City, unfortunately. Now, when I first tried to set up my TripAdvisor listing, which is a free listing, it sent me over to Viator. And I was like, wait a second, this is two different, trip companies. That was the first red flag. I looked it up and I found that they had merged. They're now the same company. However, there was a second red flag when I was looking into this because I don't know if Viator bought TripAdvisor or if TripAdvisor bought Viator. It was almost like it was intentionally vague. And I was like, well, that's a red flag, but I'm going to continue on to, get my TripAdvisor listing set up. And I went into Viator, made my account, click next, fill out information, click next, fill out information, click next. And then it's like talking about setting up a booking system. And I'm like, what is this? And then click next. And then it wanted a credit card. And I'm like, wait a second. So I went through the flow of creating a TripAdvisor listing through Viator, and it's wanting a credit card. This is not right. Going back to Scenic City, Richard has talked about before in the past where they don't use booking systems, but they're on TripAdvisor. I will say that what I found out later on is that Richard had set up his, TripAdvisor listing for Scenic City before the Viator merger. So he only had TripAdvisor. It's my understanding back then they didn't have a booking system. All this is advertising and reviews. But Viator, they have a booking system that they want to sell you. And when I was setting it up, it purposefully, because they're the same company, pushed me to Viator. It's the only way to set it up. And following just their easy flow, it pushed me to needing a credit card to set up their booking system. And I'm not going to do that. I was like, I've got my own booking system. This is dumb. And I kind of dropped it. And then I came back and started fiddling with it again. And it took me like several days to figure out how to create the free listing in Viator. I actually accomplished it, and I could not tell you how I did it. If you want to know how to do it, I have no idea how I did it because it was so complicated to get your free TripAdvisor listing through Viator because when you go in there it pushes you there, and they make it easy to get to the credit card thing, but to have a TripAdvisor listing it is incredibly difficult. That's another red flag. You would think after 3 red flags I'd be like, okay, 3 strikes, you're out. I continued on. I got my listing up. I started getting reviews. I talked to, some of my older, clients. Come over here. I've just started. I need to start building up reviews. You need about 15 reviews for TripAdvisor to start like promoting you. And eventually I did get over 15. They started promoting me a little bit. I got to like, I don't know, number 1 in water sports for Knoxville in TripAdvisor. So I did hit some milestones. But other problems happened. Now, I had it set up, started getting reviews, and waited a little bit. I guess it was 2, 3 months, maybe even 6 months. It was just months later. I went back and started looking at it to see, okay, what else? Did I miss anything? What else could I add to it? And I found on other guide services, not just Scenic City, but on other guide services, they were all the same. They had this called Meets Animal Welfare Guidelines on them. And I thought, oh, that'd be a cool thing to have on mine because I didn't have it. And I went through the system. I could not figure out, where it was. And I'm going to go back and say this again. It wasn't only Scenic City. Other fishing guides out there had this Meets Animal Welfare Guidelines tag or whatever on their listing. So I contacted Tripadvisor and said asked him if they could put that on mine or show me how to put it on mine. And they told me to talk to Tripadvisor, or they told me to talk to Viator. And it's like, what? So Tripadvisor, they have their own support. Viator, they have their own separate support, but they're the same company. Okay, sure, all right. I contacted Viator and I asked him, I've seen all these other guides. They have Meets Animal Welfare Guidelines on their listings on Tripadvisor. I'd like that on my listing. And they're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, it's just a tag that's on the thing. How can I get it? Can you, give me that tag? And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay. Here, let me give you an example. Scenic City Fishing Charters, they have the Meets Animal Welfare Guidelines. I would like that on my listing. And then they were like, okay, you now own Scenic City Fishing Charters. And I'm like, what? Really? They gave me Scenic City Fishing Charters. They moved it, the Tripadvisor listing, to my Viator profile. And I was like, no, that's not what I was asking for. I only wanted the Meets Animal Welfare Guidelines on my Tripadvisor listing. And you just gave me another listing that has over 200 reviews, that has a 5.0 rating. This is a huge violation. What in the world? And I went in circles with them until they ended up just hanging up on me. I was so angry and they were so not understanding what I was saying that they hung up on me. And I'm like, what? This was like the worst thing to ever happen, technically. I mean, I don't know what to say. I immediately called Richard because I had his phone number and told him what happened. And Richard actually didn't completely understand what was going on because he had never heard of Viator. He had never touched Viator and didn't realize that they were like the same company now, that Viator or TripAdvisor, they bought each other, whatever. And he actually was a little bit angry, which I would be too if I had lost it, like, have something like that. I'd be angry too. And, I think some of it was at me. I'm sure he probably thought that it was my fault somehow. And I will say that, asking support a question, what Viator did was a violation pretty much. And, you know, I don't know what to say. Changing over, giving me that is not as bad as having Richard mad at me because I like them. I like Scenic City, and that was the worst possible thing to actually happen is to get Richard mad at me for any reason. And I'm sure now that he isn't, he may understand what happened. But once this happened, I contacted Viator back. He contacted TripAdvisor. I bet TripAdvisor told him to contact Viator. But it took us months to get this sorted out, to get this fixed, because none of them understood what actually happened. And, you know, it's a breach of trust, a complete breach of trust. All I wanted was the meats animal welfare guidelines. That thing. That's it. That's on multiple other guides. So, and instead of telling me how to get it or putting it on there or whatever, they gave me his listing, which was incredibly stupid. Now, they did finally fix it for the most part. And I also finally got the meats animal welfare guidelines on my listing. So all is well. Well, not really. I'd say 6 months later, which was probably about a month ago, 2 months ago or something, they did some changes on TripAdvisor, on TripAdvisor, and I think it was because of Viator. And they added an owner information, and I don't know what it looks like on the TripAdvisor side or whatever. If there's like owner information when you have the TripAdvisor, if you're grandfathered into TripAdvisor like Scenic City was, but it is on Viator. There's an owner information, and it has your owner information on there. And that appeared on everybody's. It appeared on mine, it appeared on Scenic City, and anyone else who was on, has a TripAdvisor listing, they would have owner information. Guess who was on the owner information? It was my information on there. So if you looked here, I don't have it. There's something that shows like contact information, which was their contact information, but then it showed owner information as my information. As soon as I saw that, I contacted Viator, and then they did nothing. I contacted them again. It took me about 10 tries to get someone to realize that the owner information needed to be removed off of there, my information. And after months of doing that, they finally did it. The owner information my information is no longer on Scenic City Fishing Charters. And, the owner information, in fact, I don't even think there's owner information on here. I think they just deleted it off completely. Yep, no owner information. It's just contact. So on mine, it had contact and owner information. Owner information comes from Viator, which this listing shouldn't be coming from Viator at all. I don't know how they fixed it with Richard, but they reverted it, and everything's good, right? No problem. Scenic City is finally, not mine. Thank God. And now mine is fine, right? No problems. Everything's peachy keen. I made it over 15, reviews, and finally, no more problems. Until my TripAdvisor listing vanished. I am no longer on TripAdvisor. It went gone. And I'm like, okay. Why did you guys delete me? So I contacted them, and hey, this time it only took one try. Crazy enough. And they told me, yeah, it's a glitch, and you'll be fixed within 24 hours. And you get your, everything back. Everything will be peachy keen. And so, okay, 24 hours later, 72 hours later, 1 week later, not fixed. In fact, when it was initially deleted, I was able to log into my Viator account because that had information like they need your listing number. It's, for me, it's in the Viator account. I get the listing number and a few other pieces of information that they need. Well, guess what? I can't log into my Viator account because it doesn't exist anymore. When I try to log in with my username and password, it's asking for my information. It wants my name, it wants my business name. It's like I am setting up brand new from scratch. It is gone. It is gone. I don't even know what my, my listing ID is. I don't know anything. I have tried like emailing them to my ticket because, when you open a ticket, it gets an email. I replied back to the ticket. And then I got a reply from another guide asking me what issues I have with their guide service. And I'm like, what? And then I replied back, and they replied back to me and said they can't do anything because we don't do anything with the suppliers, the people who like Scenic City or my business or whatever business. I'm like, this ticket was opened as me being a supplier, as me having a Tripadvisor listing, and instead of you fixing my problem, you sent this to your user or whatever support to another guide saying that I have a problems with that other guide's booking. What? This is an absolute disaster that I really don't care at this point. They have screwed up so bad that they gave me a listing that was not mine. They deleted my listing due to a glitch. And then when I tried to use their support to fix the glitch, they sent me to a different guide service saying that I had problems booking a trip. And, you know, I had the red flags of who knows what company bought which. That, it's easy to set it up, but it takes you straight to a credit card when it's supposed to be a free TripAdvisor listing. I'm calling these companies scams. This is beyond anything I can think of other than calling it a scam company. And unless you are Scenic City and finally have things, in order, don't use them. So I don't know what to do at this point other than just to make a video about it. And as a fishing guide, you know, having some way to advertise is a good thing. And this TripAdvisor Viator way of advertising or whatever has been a absolute disaster. And not only did they screw up everything on my side and with Scenic City, they also screwed up my relationship with Scenic City because I'm 100% sure it left a bad taste in Richard's mouth, and I don't know. I just have to call out TripAdvisor and Viator just to show you guys what they did, and you know this is another negative video, and I don't want to make these negative videos. I've been doing them about the pay lakes and stuff like that. And, a lot of you agree with me that pay lakes need to be dealt with. And that is a negative subject. And now here we are with something that's happened over the past year that's a negative thing that has happened to me that has been this is just beyond stupidity. I don't know what to say really or how to get this fixed. To most of you, it probably doesn't matter that much. A lot of you do want me to be successful, and I'm trying. I'm trying different ways to be successful. TripAdvisor is just not a way to be successful. At least for me, it has been a disaster. Yeah. At least I am booking trips through my own website. I also use fishingbooker.com, and I've started on Guidesly. I've not got a single trip from Guidesly, and I've been getting trips on from Fishing Booker, and that's I have considered making a whole video about that too, but I'm going to just leave that tabled for now. I've had some issues with Fishing Booker, but not to the extent of this disaster that Viator and Tripadvisor has caused, at least with my listing and their listing. It is, wow. I don't know, but it is what it is. And yeah, I'm going to try to do more fishing videos in the future. I know I just released 10 minutes of crickets because the fish have not, at least the catfish, have not been cooperating from the bank. And I haven't actually, gone to my area with my boat to catfish. I've been having a lot of what I call mixed bag trips below one of my favorite dams, and we've been catching a lot of fish, and I've had a lot of happy clients. And so at least that's happening. Now all I need to do is start catching fish for you guys instead of, you know, giving you bad news like this. This is just beyond, beyond dumb. But anyway, now as always, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to actually watch this video. I really, 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 really appreciate it. I know it's not what I normally, have to deal with or whatever, but anyway, I'm just going to end up rambling on and on and on. So, yeah, I'm going to just try to put this behind me and push forward and try to take you guys fishing one of these days on video. Thanks again for watching. I do hope to see you next time.